Welcome everybody to this webinar about inspirational practices hosted and organized by SALTO PI, SALTO Participation and Information. And today we're going to have here two projects that got an award from SALTO PI as best practices. And we're going to have the people behind these projects speaking a little bit about them, and maybe they're also going to inspire us. But besides also these two key speakers that we also have a great team behind all the technical aspects. We're going to have Kadri, Melika, and Kelly, and Georg from SALTO PI, that they're also going to be answering your questions on the Q&A, also interacting with you on the chat. So anything that you will need, please feel free also to address it on chat. And besides this amazing team from SALTO PI, we also have Siri, which is going to make some graphic recording, as you can see from our background. And this will also be streaming live on Facebook. An important information even before we start, just to ensure all attendees that you don't need a microphone, you don't need a camera. This is a webinar where all the action will be from this side, but you can always interact with the Q&A box and the chat box. And I will pass now to Melika so she can introduce a little bit also the technical aspects of this webinar.
Thank you, Sergio. I'm really glad to welcome everyone just to briefly mention you then what's going to happen with the technical side. So this webinar is recorded and it is also currently live streamed on Facebook. So you can share the live stream and invite more friends to watch. And Facebook viewers can share their reactions and questions in the comment section under the Facebook Live window. So please, be courageous, ask anything, this is your chance. And of course, this webinar will also be recorded and it will be brought to you via YouTube. We will also have a transcript and we will also upload the video and your questions and answers, or a selection of it, to the participation resource pool, which we will talk a little bit more on the later phase. And yeah, just don't write your questions on the comment section. Comment section is just for general comments or hellos or anything like this. But all the questions are in the Q&A box. If you look below on the bar, you'll see it. It's very easy. And we will try to answer some of the questions already here with our team and with Claudia and Bianca. But obviously, there are quite many participants, so we might not be able to answer them all, but we will collect them and analyze them and then make it available for you on the later phase. All right, so that's pretty much it from the technical side, but maybe a few words about the SALTO participation and information as well for those who don't know us. So for the friends, we are SALTO BNI or SALTO PI, however you pronounce it. And SALTO participation and information is part of the network of European resource centers that are dedicating their work towards developing youth work and bringing more quality to the youth work. And our SALTO, similar to our SALTOs, is also developing different tools and publications, and we're organizing also trainings and events. And this webinar series is one of those events that the SALTO participation and information is organizing with the goal to foster youth participation, to make youth participation more visible, to make youth actions more strong. So this is our goal. And maybe if we go more in directly to some of the examples of the activities, Sergio, can you please change the slide? Then, for instance, on the field of youth participation, we have put together an international team of thinkers on youth participation. They have a range of experiences. They're activists themselves. They're policymakers, they're youth workers, so they are our source of knowledge, so we can bring useful knowledge to the youth work sector. And we are also developing several strategies, for instance, youth participation strategy with a range of partners. And as the participation resource pool was already mentioned, it's a platform which we will launch officially soon, but it gathers together inspirational practices, tools, and materials on the topic of youth participation, media and information literacy, and communication and outreach. So all those tools and things that you need to get your projects going and make them more participatory. But that's it in a really like nutshell format. So I would give word back to Sergio. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melike. Very nice to know a little bit more about SALTO PI or SALTO PI, as you mentioned that there are different ways of pronouncing maybe. And today, as I mentioned, it's about inspirational practices. So projects that were awarded and they are in the youth field and they are really inspiration. And we hope that they can inspire also other people today. So today we have a project that it's called Youth for Democracy, which Bianca Butoko, if I'm not mistaken the name, and please correct me later if that's the wrong, will present it a little bit. And we're also going to have Claudia Keys, that she's going to present her own project called Find the Green. And for that, I will pass first maybe to Bianca to present herself a bit. But even before that, just a small detail, I would ask also Kadri if it's possible to launch now a poll. So we know a little bit more about the people that are attending over there, from where you are. So you're going to see on your screen that they're going to appear a poll, and you just answer simply which region you are and what is your professional role. So we also know a little bit about who is there on that side of the screen. And while you are answering the poll, now we pass to Bianca so she can present a little bit about herself and who is she and who is also about her project.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about Youth for Democracy. I'm Bianca. I'm from Bacău, Romania, and today I represent Active Development Association from Bacău City, Romania, which implemented Youth for Democracy project last year. In this project, I was a coordinator. It was my first time as a coordinator, but before this, I took part in more than 30 Erasmus Plus projects, both as participants, but as member of the project team. Through Youth for Democracy project, we wanted to promote participatory democracy, especially last year during the elections, European elections and presidential elections. Besides that, we launched the digital magazine Youth for Democracy, for which we promoted different youth initiatives and NGOs which focus on youth work.
Thank you, Bianca. Very short to the point, straight to the point. Good, because we're going to talk more about it during this webinar anyway. And thank you also for your video that shows a little bit on the background what some activities that you did on this project, I believe. Yeah, and thank you so much for that. Yeah, sorry?
It's okay, thank you.
Okay, no worries. And I think we have already 80% of the votes on the poll. So maybe we can conclude it and also share a little bit the results of what happened during this poll. So as you may see, we have 77% of the people attending coming from European Union, while 18% from other European countries. And we also have 3% from Asia, 1% from Africa, and 1% from Americas. So very international, this webinar also. Good to know that. The majority of the people that are attending, the professional role is youth worker / trainer. And we have also 11% that are students, 4% that are youth researchers, 3% policymakers or / public administration. And we have 4% that are members of partner organizations and 13% from others. So we have a little bit of an idea about the main public that we are having now in this webinar. Thank you so much for that. And I will pass now maybe to Claudia so she can present also a little bit herself and her project. And then we're going to have also a series of questions and debates. And in the end, also some tips and tricks. And of course, we're going to have also some part about Q&A that, as you know, there's a Q&A box where you can already make some questions. Some of them are going to be answered by written format, others will be answered in the end of the webinar. And no further delongs, I pass to Claudia.
Thank you, Sergio. And first of all, thank you for SALTO PI for organizing this webinar and giving me this opportunity to be here. So my name is Claudia Kisha. I'm from Hungary, and I'm the owner, and I prefer to say the heart of Find the Green project. With this project, we raise awareness on environment protection with supporting decision-making. Actually, this is database visualized on a map, but you will know more about this later, I guess. Personally, I'm a freelance trainer and a nature addict, so I have a strong motivation to run this project.
Good, Claudia, thank you. So I have some questions for you both, of course, but also more related with your projects. So Bianca, let's start by you. Your project is called 𝘄𝗵𝗶𝘀, and it was able to reach a big number of young people. What were the key ingredients for this success?
First of all, I would say commitment and time. Like we thought about this project for months before starting it. We formed a team of five people, the project team, and we truly committed ourselves for 1 year to promote participatory democracy, young people's involvement in the community, and the elections that took place last year. Besides that, I will say our communication strategy. We try to reach out to as many people as possible, young people, especially from our local community from 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗃 County. Besides this, I would say our partners, they really stepped in in our project. They were open to collaborate with us, but also we were open to them to share our experience with them, to say why we want to carry out this project and why it's important to inform young people about what is going on in the EU, why it's important to take part in the community. I think these are the main key ingredients for us for this project. And also I will say the way we use social media to reach people. We were posting lots of information about the EU and our project. We shared all our articles, our work, and encourage young people from our activities to join us online and follow us and follow the activities, to take part in them as much as possible.
Okay, so somehow you are answering a little bit already the second question I had for you, which is, what did you do to get them more interested, encourage them to take care and action? I know I say them, it's of course the young people. You already explained that, yeah, you use also social media. What else did you manage to do to involve young people and to make them active?
During our activities, which took place in 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗃 County, in 8 cities from 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗃 County, we also wanted to go from local to European to show them what EU does in their local communities, how it helps their school, their public places through different projects with funds from the EU. And we wanted to show them that EU is really present in their life, and they can step in and get involved in their community, because their community is also part of the EU, and they can say what they want and work on how they see their society and community and so on. I think that's one of the way we wanted to encourage them to be active and get involved.
So to try to somehow also show them that Europe is also part of what they are and part of the country that they live in the region.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, good. And when starting your campaign on European Union and elections, was it hard to make people interested? Because you already said one of the approach was to show them that actually they are also part. But did you find some challenge? Did you find difficult for them to really get interested and involved?
That depended on the group of the participants. As I said, we had activities in 8 cities from 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗃 County, And it depended on the group, because we had cities where the participants, the young people, were really involved in the community and were aware of the European context they live in. Like we had the city where the high school where we hold the activity was actually a European school ambassador, a European Parliament school ambassador, but also so they were aware of the elections, they were aware of this European events. But also we had cities where it was actually the first time that the young people participated in non-formal education activities. It was the first time they were talking about the European Union. And yeah, it depended on these two aspects. If they participated before in activities besides school, and if they really had the chance to take part in activities or be informed about the European Union.
Very nice to know. And following up that question a bit, what were the key elements of your communication and cooperation activities? You already said that, for example, you had very good partners that stepped in, but what else? Did you have a very strong campaign, for example?
Yeah, it was also the fact that we collaborated really great with the European Parliament office in Romania. They helped us with different materials, you know, the cartoons with This Time I'm Voting campaign. They gave us different brochures that we gave the participants. And we also had our own visual identity that like people knew us from our visual identity and the way we presented the information. But also one important thing we did,
I stopped listening to Bianca, so I don't know if people are still listening to her or not, but I think we lost it due to internet connection. That's the problem sometimes and challenges of making webinars. There's always this kind of technical difficulties, but it's not a problem. We can summarize a bit, and especially also using now the graphic recording of Siri. So seeing also the graphic recording that Siri was doing, one of the main elements that Bianca shared with us was about to try to reach out as many youth as possible, to show them about the democracy and the European Parliament and elections and how they can be contributing or not. And one of the main points was also that they wanted to show that EU is really part of their lives. So even being in Romania, in their own region, to try to raise this feeling about EU citizenship and belonging to European Union. Besides that, they shared a lot of materials in social media, and they also had their own visual identity, and they tried to hear the young people and also to approach them in the way that they could become more engaged and activated. Anyway, I hope we soon get back Bianca. Let's hope her internet will be back. But meanwhile, then we move to Claudia and also know a little bit more about this project, Find the Green. If I understood correctly, you also build a website. And one of the main questions then that I have for you, Claudia, is that when building websites, it is very important to make sure that everything is logical, attractive, useful. How did you make sure that in the planning process that this will be the case, that everything will be work perfectly on this website?
Well, actually, if you want your website to fit for your users, you need to ask your users, and actually this is the secret. But for sure, it's an advantage that I have a lot of experience in creating and optimizing systems. But if you prepare something for the community, then you need to be aware what the community needs and what are their preferences, because those can be different than yours. The only way you can discover the user needs is to ask them. Maybe a practical advice can be: do not work thousands of hours on something to have it perfect before you reveal it. Just make proposals and then dare to make mistakes and then ask for feedback. Once you implement the changes based on feedback, ask feedback again, and that's a never-ending process.
So just not to assume that your idea is great and it will work like this, but constantly test it and asking feedback to friends and to young people.
Yes,
good.
Yes. And that's an input as well. So the sooner you ask for help and advice, the sooner you get help and input to develop. So that's a present.
Definitely. And one amazing thing is also in your project that also the jury also comment, and congratulations also again for the award that you received from SALTO PI. You were able to create a website, but plus that you also recorded podcasts only in 3 months. And if I'm not mistaken, with a limited budget of around 150 euros. How did you do this? What were the 3 main ingredients to have this successful recipe?
Well, first of all, we had the IT marketing, organizational development and project management knowledge within the team. So I wouldn't say that it was easy, but it was easier this way to create a website. And we spent more time in it instead of spending money on it. So this is how it was actually possible to work such a limited budget with it. But the ingredients, first, I think it's not bad if you spend money if you don't have the knowledge. But first, I think we need to make a decision if you want to take the easier solution to buy the knowledge and the attention with the paid advertisements. And this is a highway for sure for this project or for your project. Or you can decide that you invest time instead of money and accept that you will be less effective, at least for a while. So make a decision at the first ingredient. The second is to learn instead of buy the knowledge. That takes time. The third is accept help, because there are a lot of people around you offering help if you ask for it, so open your arms. And there is a +1, work hard.
Yeah, I imagine that work hard is maybe some key ingredient for all the projects. But it's amazing what you did, and according to what you were saying, sometimes it's more important to have time than to have the budget or the money to make some things. But even so, you did everything in 3 months. So even time, it was also not so long, not such a long project, but really short. But thank you.
It was a
anyway.
decision. It was a decision. So we knew it at the beginning that it will be a lot of time, and we allocated time for that in order to finish it in time for a competition. So
good planning also in advance.
Thank you, Sergio.
One other question that I have for you is that when finally the website was set up and finally it was running and you started to promote it, what was the most valuable first lesson that you got regarding this promotion of your project and the website?
Patience. Patience and how to keep motivation. Well, in online communication, not only the quality, but the quantity of the content is also key. So I don't know if anyone knows the feeling of working hard and waiting for the result that does not come. Editing, writing, posting, and editing, writing, posting, and there's only 1 follower coming up and 3 likes. Thank you. Well, it's hard, and we only need to be patient because the result will be there, but sometimes it takes several months to appear.
That's a very good key ingredient and also a lesson for sure to share with everybody. Just a reminder also to the attendees that the website was already shared also on the chat, the link for the website that Claudia is talking about on the project Find the Green, as well also the project Youth for Democracy from Bianca. And feel free to still comment on the website, but we remind you that any questions, please use the Q&A box. So then it's easier also for us to answer and to be able to also give it to the speakers on the end of this webinar. So just a little resume about what Claudia said, and we're going to continue the debate after, and I hope Bianca is also back with the internet. So just a short resume. The idea of the project of Claudia was to raise awareness of environment protection, and for that they also created a website and podcasts. One big advice is that don't work thousands of hours before start doing it, and you can build the webcast with a short budget if you allocate correctly the time. And above all, be patient. Be patient because things take some time to grow and to have a good number of followers. but they will happen. So keep on track. Thank you so much, Claudia, for this first interaction with the questions. We're gonna move on, and I hope Bianca is back. I think so. I can see her again.
I'm here.
Welcome
Sorry
back, Bianca.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. It's part of these technical difficulties of webinars, so don't worry about it. We're going to continue with these questions and answers and a little bit of debate, because now we learn a little bit about each project. And of course, everybody can learn even more on the websites that you created also for each project. But I have some questions also that both of you can answer. And then I will indicate which one can start answering first, and we rotate. So one question that can come from both is, well, your projects were both done by and for young people. And how did other stakeholders supported you or not? Maybe they said, no, this is not for us. And what was their reaction towards your project? And maybe we start by Bianca, that she's back now.
Okay, thanks. Well, I can honestly say that the partners we had were really supportive. We didn't have any drawbacks, like they didn't had second thoughts on organizing activities with us, especially because in the first part we had the campaign on the European elections, and it was a pretty important event of the year. So they were really happy that we wanted to organize activities for their for their young people from the high school. Even though we had the support, there were like 2 or 3 partners that were a bit doubtful, because it was the political aspects and they didn't want to introduce this in their high schools. But overall, like, we were really supported by our local authorities and NGOs and institutions. When I'm talking about institution, I mean high schools and university. And yeah, I can't say we had a bad or negative experience from this point of view.
Good. Did you have that partnership already before this project, or already some contacts?
Yeah, with some of our partners, yes, with Europe Direct from our city, but also we had activities for the first time in some cities. For cities, it was the first time we organized activities there. And also for those high school, it was the first time that they had non-formal education activities for their students.
Nice to know. Good. And the same question now for Claudia. I don't know if you remember the question or you want me to repeat it.
The same question. Okay.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I have to emphasize that this is a very new project. I mean, I really believe that this is the beginning, what we reached already. So serious interactions with the market and with the business are scheduled for autumn. First, I had to interact with the stakeholders. At the beginning, I wanted to wait for the perfect moment and just to be able to amaze them. And no, that doesn't work. Generally, they were very enthusiastic and supportive. Actually, there was a point when I felt that green actors of Hungary are not really willing to cooperate. They just want to somehow keep the knowledge, keep the information for their followers, for their communities, to not to lose the competitive advantage, let's say. That was my feeling and perspective. But to tell you the truth, this was a matter of trust. They need to know us more. They need to understand out of our communication that we want to be partners. And this partnering can grow both of us. So I really feel that network is a key, and communication is an essential part of that. So now we are planning to differentiate our communication, to prepare content also for the partners, specialized for the partners.
Mm-hmm. So you found some resistance, but you are also learning with that and trying to change a little bit your plan and adapt and going.
Actually, yeah. Again, communication, because this resistance might not be resistance, might be just lack of information. And yeah, also the producers providers and communities really wants to join us and be on the map.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great, and I really don't believe the expression of greenwashing, for example, because as I mentioned before, we are really committed to the positive attitude and positive communication. So instead of asking if it's green, I ask how green it is.
Mm.
And of course, this can be a nice debate with activists, but we actually stated this way of thinking on our website, that we provide one-step greener solutions and information to help people to choose based on their values.
That's very important. Just to clarify a bit, maybe not everybody knows this term greenwashing. Can you explain a little bit what is this? And you already said that you try to avoid it. So
Yeah. Well, greenwashing. Well, yes. When being green and being eco-friendly becomes a fashion, a kind of fashion, or treated as an important thing, then some of the producers can highlight the greenish way of and advantage of their product. So things that are not really eco-friendly but can be highlighted as at least a bit eco-friendly. But as I mentioned, I really don't believe this greenwashing. I mean, it exists, but I prefer to ask how green is it. So even if it's one step greener, a bit green, then I really like to support those green solutions as well, and maybe they will feel like greenify more.
Good. Thank you for the clarification, Claudia. I think it's important. If I understood correctly, also you have a website that is prepared in Hungarian. I'm not sure also if it's in English, but maybe later on you also can share the screen and show a little bit about at least what is the main things about your website and what are the main things from your project. Yeah,
that would be nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you can prepare at least the website, and then I will give you the clue when it's time to share it. Yeah.
Okay.
And continuing then with the discussions, thank you so much. It's amazing to listen both of the projects and some things that are similar and some things that are different, even that both have different topics. But going back then to Bianca, if you could go back and do everything again, what would you change?
That's a tough question. One thing that I wouldn't change, but I would be more focused on, is reaching young people from rural communities or with fewer opportunities. We managed to reach about 500 young people with fewer opportunities during our project. But I think it's it's important to focus on this type of young people, because they aren't so much aware of the European Union and the benefits and opportunities they can have as European citizens. So that will be one thing that I would not change, but focus more, like try to reach as many young people with fewer opportunities. And another thing that I will change, it will be launching our platform, youthfordemocracy.eu. Earlier, we launched it almost at the end of the project, but I think it will be great to, like, if you want to launch a platform or a website of your project, to do it during the project, so that you can share the content of your activities during the project, not after implementing them.
Thank you. Very nice point. So it's not really about changing everything, but small details that can improve even better the project, if it will be implemented another time. Thank you, Bianca. And the same question for Claudia. If you go back, what would you change?
I would say starting with a bigger team. We started with the team of 2, and we implemented a lot of things within 2 months. And then the real communication, the visible communication starts. And this is something that we did not consider at the beginning. So next time, if I do something like this, I would start with the team building. I mean, recruiting more volunteers or supporters within the team. because it's even easier, and it's easier to adapt to changes. And maybe one more thing is just to start networking earlier, because networking is also a way of communication and visibility. Not to solve everything alone from a room instead of sitting in front of the computer, but to start to share our idea earlier and network more.
Very nice. Yeah, because I'm sure that just two people in the beginning must be tough. But I also understand that sometimes the idea, it's easier if just two people know the idea and they are committed and motivated. But as you mentioned very well, maybe sharing with other people, then it also becomes their idea and their dream, and they can support more on that. So very good points.
It's a rush. I mean, you have the idea, you fall in love with your idea and start doing immediately. Yeah, and you just alone with your partner doing this, and you know, you realize that there are a huge amount of tasks when you miss the effort and then you miss people around you. So this is a lesson learned.
Good. I would say that, yes, since we are talking so much about that, and also what are the points that you would do different, maybe it will be a good point now to share a bit your screen and to show the website, and just give us a bit of an overview about what was the website, because also to understand how it was this process of just two people working and in 3 months with a limited budget, but how much you accomplished and what the website actually shows and presents.
What you said, 𝗄𝗲𝗍. So actually, this is the website. Just to highlight, we will have map. Yeah, it's in Hungarian. We are planning to translate it soon. We need more people in the team. So we have a map.
Do you need volunteers to translate? Maybe somebody that is watching would support you on that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, so we will have a map and we will have topics. So we divided all the green solutions into topics. For example, waste and recycling, storage, commuting and travel, cleaning, personal hygiene, cosmetics, and so on. You will see these topics later on. We have the radio part, and we also have blog post. And if you scroll down here, this part is to recommend your favorite green solution. So you can choose a location, you can choose an event, for example, or just the news. You click here and you can just easily send it us, and then we will put it on the map. And below that you can find all the categories listed that you can click and search from the solutions that I will get back to later. And this is something to help us. This is the magazine. Here you can see the article about winning SALTO PI Awards. And here you can see the map. I think that was a question if I'm going to share the map as well. Yes, maybe too much. So there are pins that are markers for all the green solutions. We have at this moment around 200, and we have a huge list of more than 1,000 that we still want to upload. So here is the map, and how the database works. You actually easily find the category, let's say food. And in food category, you can find all the solutions that are on the map. And if you click on the first one, you can even find the correct location. And here, yeah, dare to make mistakes. This is not the most beautiful part ever, but we have labels that isolates more the categories. Let's say you can see that if it's handmade, you can see that this location is accepting volunteers. You can see if it's accessible for everyone. So we have several, if it's a market, if it's seasonal product. So there are different labels that differentiate the categories more.
Good.
And
so if I understood correctly,
yes?
it's the idea of this map is that you can track in Hungary, if I understood correctly, these shops or other services that have this ecological thinking, or some products and services that are more sustainable.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's also good to see the parts that don't work well, like you were showing, because I think that's also important for the people that attending.
I was thinking on that for 3 days, but if I now say that dare to make mistakes, then I need to show the mistakes as well.
Yes.
And this is still a process. So it's an advantage for the green solutions to be there and to show themselves for a bigger audience, let's say. And it's also eco-friendly to be able to choose the closest solution to you.
So you don't need to take transportations or cars, or just walk if it's needed.
Yes,
good. And the rest of the websites,
possible.
You were showing also that you have a radio and magazine.
Yes, the magazine is a simple blog where we share articles. It's part of the communication, and also there is a very popular green website that shares green news, and we can also share our articles there as well. And there is the radio part. Actually, this is me. And here there are listed all the podcasts that we recorded. And here you have the access to our Mixcloud, because yesterday we had the 28th podcast. So all we have is...
podcasts also in Hungarian or also in English?
Unfortunately, yes.
No problem.
But it would be nice to have a series in English as well. It's a matter of time, and actually this project is based on the database and on a map, and I really believe that you can only collect the local things. I mean, if you are in Hungary and you live in Hungary, it's easier to find all the green solutions within Hungary. It's a first step, and then we can grow for sure.
It is already impressive what was accomplished. So congratulations for that. Not diminishing also the Youth for Democracy project. It's completely different topics. So congratulations to both anyway, again. And thank you so much for showing also a bit of website. I will ask Siri maybe to share again the graphic recording while we continue with the debate. And again, the link will also going to be shared on the chat. It was already shared, but if it's needed, we can share again for both projects, for Youth Democracy and Find the Green. So if Siri can share again the recording, I will pass to another question. We already talked here about partners, and Bianca also said that you had very good partnerships, and fortunately they were not so much resistant. They were really supportive. But I think it would be interesting also to understand, how did you contact them? Was it you send an email? Did you have personal contacts already? Did you phone call? Did you went there and annoying them for some time? What was the process, and how did you communicate it with other stakeholders and partners?
It depended again on the city that we had the activities. In some cities, we already knew the partners. They are our partners for years now, so it wasn't difficult to discuss about our project and organize our activity with them. However, with some other partners, we either contact them via email or through their, I'm talking about now about high school, we contacted the student councils. So they helped us further with approval from the professor and so on. So yeah, it was either with partners that we already know, so we were talking easily, and with new partners via email or student councils.
Thank you. So a variety of channels. And you, Claudia, how did you approach also all the partners, and especially also these partners that then appeared on the map?
Actually, it was first the knowledge of mine, what I know. I started it just to have a hint what we are doing, and then we started the communication on Facebook and Instagram, and also we started the radio podcast. Then we repeated that you can send recommendations. So this is how it goes, and some of the partners doesn't even know that they are on the map. So this part of getting in touch with all the 200 or 1,200 partners are just coming. Many of them had been invited also to the radio shows, so I think that's a nice platform to network with the partners, and with, let's say, business. Email works better, and also personal communication. Like let's have it as personal as it possible, leisure, light, and also professional. Because this is also part of communication, how you communicate with your partners.
Definitely. And from I get from both of you, it's really depends on the partners, on the channels, on the region that they are. So you try to find solutions accordingly to the needs. So if it's possible to contact them directly, if not, it's email if they are more far away, or in this case also social media. I think this is very useful hints also and tips. And I see also that on chat, people are already volunteering also to translate and to help you on translating to different languages. So I hope this webinar will bring also something that can support even further both of your projects. And getting back again to Bianca, for the young people that are watching this webinar, not only here on the Zoom webinar, but also live stream on Facebook, and maybe even later they're gonna watch it. What will be your advice if they would like to start something or pursue an idea to start a project? What will be your advice for them? And especially try to connect a little bit with promotion, information, and communication.
Okay, I think that one big step is to find people like you, to find your group of volunteers, partners, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need some, especially regarding communication skills, different tools to create your visuals about your project activities, and so on. I will also say to do your research on the project that you want to implement, and try to communicate as easy as possible about the information you want to share. Focus on the target group you have and share create your messages to fit them, to be understood by your target group specifically. And also one advice that I have is to find partners that have the same aim as you. Like, for example, we promoted the European elections, so we reached out to the European Parliament office in Romania. They helped us, they became our partners. We also, since we were talking about the European Parliament, we contacted the European Parliament Ambassador School program, because one of the schools from Bacău County is part of this program. So they became partners in this project. So yeah, it's to find your partners and a group of people that can help you build your idea and also develop it.
It's very important advice. It's also in line with what you and Claudia both were saying, also about having a good team, and even that you start just with another person, like in case of Claudia, just two, but it's already somebody, and then involving other partners that are in the same topic. So the same question for you, Claudia. What advice would you give to young people if they want to start something new?
First of all, don't wait for the perfect timing, for the perfect circumstances and knowledge you need. Start, and then you will have what you need for the time you need it. So this might be a bit abstract, but start it as soon as possible, at least with a sketch. And then what I already mentioned, then have a sketch, ask feedback, then implement something, then ask feedback, but don't wait too much. And maybe the second is to plan your communication at the very beginning, because nice communication is based on values. So first of all, it's nice to clarify what are your values and how you would like to promote them or communicate them. And this requires planning. And when you are in the state of rush at the beginning and you are so enthusiastic, you might forget about this, but values first, and then try to promote them.
What do you mean by values? Can you give an example of some of the values that you try to follow?
Actually, the first one I mentioned already, that this positive communication and positive approach is very important for us, and that we stated at the very beginning, and in each and every Facebook posts we have, we stick to be positive. Even last weekend, I'm a kayak instructor, so I went out to the nature and I found hundreds of plastic bottles in the middle of the nature, and I went for a live video, like I took the audience for a walk in the forest. There we find a lot of plastic bottles, but once you can identify what is that, you can be aware what you need to change. I mean, not to consume things that are sold in the plastic bottles, because if you don't buy plastic bottles, then there would be plastic bottles in the middle of nature after a while, of course. So although if I make a live with a bad view, with full of plastic, we communicate the development and the opportunities of that situation. So this was the first value that this climate anxiety is so annoying for me, because there are these threatening news around, and people just became stressed and freeze, and they start to debate. That is one side nice, but on the other side you can even be useful instead of being scared. So we decided that the positive communication will be our key, and from the very beginning we stick to it, although if it's hard sometimes.
Thank you so much, Claudia. And also reinforcing a bit, I would ask Bianca, did you feel the same? Did you have also this approach of a positive communication?
Yeah, of course. Like, we try to communicate as much as possible online, especially, but focus only on the positive things, on the opportunities and benefits that the EU has to offer. I'm talking now about when we had our campaign on the elections. So yeah, during our activities, we try to focus only on the positive aspects, not to let the participants get into a negative debate on and I don't know, influence others that their opinion, their negative opinion is the correct one. So yeah.
Very important. Thank you so much for both for that. Just a reminder also to the attendees, there's still opportunity to make questions and answers besides communicating on a chat. Use the Q&A box, and whatever the team cannot answer by written format now, we're going to answer in the end of this webinar with a Q&A session specifically for that. And even so, then we're also going to try to, the questions that we will not be able to answer then, even in this webinar, we're going to try to answer it later on and also publish it on the SALTO PI platform. And one last question from this debate for both of you. Your project had a great success. Congratulations again to both, and you receive an award from SALTO PI. So what's next? And how will you ensure the sustainability of your project? Bianca, maybe first?
Okay, sure. We in a way, we moved the project online. We now have the website. We are trying to develop as a platform for young people to promote their initiatives, projects, and also find out about what is going on in the European Union. Our website is youth4democracy.eu. And also we have the magazine, digital magazine, Youth for Democracy, which again promotes youth initiatives and youth work of different NGOs from around the world. Besides that, we are trying to keep promoting participatory democracy, especially that this year we also have elections in Romania, local and parliamentary elections. And I don't know, maybe we'll see, we'll have a Youth for Democracy 2 edition. The second edition, we have to think about that to keep our work on promoting participatory democracy.
So for sure it's going on. You're not going to stop it now.
No, we have the website. Yeah. So through our website, we are still active, and on Facebook as well.
Very good. And do you have any plans already to capitalize, to take advantage of this award that you received?
From the SALTO
Yes.
Award. Yeah, of course. Like, it's a huge honor for us, but also for our partners that were involved. Especially that it was our first solidarity course, solidarity project implemented through the European Solidarity Course Program. So yeah, we want to keep our to step up our level of communicating and promoting what we started last year, participatory democracy and the European Union. So,
Great, and I'm sure that your partners were also happy to see this recognition.
Yeah, this is like the best way to see that our results, project results, are recognized by others also.
Mm-hmm. The same question then for Claudia. What's next, and how are you going to ensure the sustainability, and how are you going to use now the recognition that you received from this award from SALTO PI?
Yes, we have a lot of plans. I mean, let's say tons of plans. Actually, now we are trying to, well, not trying, there are new members joining to the team with also new knowledge. So actually, we are really planning to start video content more serious. We have some on our YouTube channel, but a few. So we really want to turn on this video content part. We will start to interact more with the market, let's say, for all the green solutions that are on the map and they still don't know about us. Now the communication, other part of the communication coming, just let's get in touch with them. We will for sure continue our podcasts. And our podcasts are in live weekly on a Hungarian festival radio. So here we can reach a lot of young people. I mean, weekly 200 to 300 people is the audience. So that's beneficial, and we will keep going with that. And that is also very interesting that we had been selected to a startup bootcamp. I just received information yesterday. So I have seen a question in the Q&A that what is the business model and how we finance this job. I mean, now we don't finance. I mean, we have this low cost that is the domain and so on, but we don't earn money out of this at this point. But I'm sure that if we can protect the nature, then it's worth it. And now we need to build a real business model that makes it sustainable for all as well. And we applied for solidarity projects, and because it was a need from young people that nice that you have a website, but a mobile app would be more interesting to us. And then I said, okay, if you're interested in a mobile app, then let's do it together. So we are applying for that. And we'll see how it goes.
Good. Thank you so much for both of you for this answering all these questions. And yes, soon we're going to also have the Q&A session. But before, we're going to move on to a special part also on this webinar, which is about tips and tricks. So to share a little bit also the best practices, the challenges, the obstacles, what you faced during your projects. Even that somehow, of course, we already tackled some of them. Sometimes when you also talked about partners, how to involve them. But we want to know a little bit more. So Bianca, I would start with you. Tell us then what were the main learning outcomes that you had with this experience and with this project?
I think that one of the main learning outcomes would be the fact that we had to adapt our activities to each group of participants. Because as I said before, it depended on the level of knowledge and how we involved the young participants were before our activities in non-formal education activities. So yeah, that will be one of the main outcomes, learning outcomes, to adapt our activity in order to respond to the learning needs of the participants. Also, one learning outcome would be the fact that we had to recognize the fact that there are other projects out there, that our project wasn't the only one on European Parliament elections, for example, and it was better to collaborate with others and share our best practices examples and share our tips and tricks from our activities in order to really reach out the young people from our local communities. Because there were other campaigns. It was the European Parliament campaign this time voting, but also other initiatives in the local communities. So that was one thing that we had to learn, how to accept the fact that we are not the only ones that focus on a topic, and it's better to collaborate with others. Another thing that I will say that we learned how to collaborate with each other in the team and coordinate our program schedules and ideas and share our ideas in order to build our activities and reach as many people as possible. And from the partners' point of view, I would say that we learned how to communicate with them better and how to build a relation and keep the communication going, because we collaborated with someone in February, but we kept in touch until October, November through our Facebook page, but also we were sending our results, magazine, the photos, videos we took during the activities in order to keep them connected to the project and maybe create multipliers in their local community, young people who can take our message and share it with their family, friends, group from school, I don't know. So that will be the main learning.
It's already a big learning process, I can see, and it's very valuable. I connect very much also with some of the things that you are saying, and especially, for example, to adapt the activities. That's mainly one of the principles of non-formal education, and good that you also reached that. But also, like you were saying, understanding that your project is not the only one on this topic, and it's better to cooperate than to compete. And sometimes this is not happening in practice. Sometimes we are just trying to compete with each other instead of trying to include. How did you find out this part? Was it during the project itself, or now that you look back, you reflect on it and say, okay, we could change this part and be more cooperative since the beginning?
You mean the fact that there are other projects?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we accepted that from the beginning because we reached out to the European Parliament office in Romania to also promote the This Time I Voted campaign. We had the materials from them to promote the campaign as well. But also on our Facebook page, we were sharing lots of information and posts from other NGOs and initiatives from young people. So when it came to the European Parliament elections, it was obvious from the beginning that we weren't the first ones, and we chose to share the best practices from around Romania or around the world. So yeah, it wasn't a surprise for us and not a shock that we weren't the only ones. So, and also the European Solidarity Course program. So we applied for the project for the first deadline of the program, and one of the key projects for them was the promoting the elections. So most of the projects that were applied for the first deadline was on the elections.
Very good point. Thank you so much, and for sure it's also going to help some people that are attending. So the same question for you, Claudia. What were the main learning outcomes from your experience and from your project?
There were a lot.
Yeah,
First of all, to stick to the idea, although some of the opinions will hold us back because there are the sentences, this requires too much effort, this will be hard to keep sustainable, it's expensive, you don't have the knowledge. So just stick to your idea. The second is, business consultants often says that do not fall in love with your idea. My experience is that there's no other way to build something innovative just to first of all fall in love with your idea and be enthusiastic regarding. And also, once you fall in love with your idea, you start to talk about your idea, and this was a big learning outcome, that sometimes this is just enough to talk about the idea, to let people see that you believe in your idea and in your project. So, and this is the beginning of the communication, actually, when you have the idea and you have the wow experience and you just go around and share it with all. Yes, networking is crucial. I feel I mentioned it several times already, because that can even bring the results earlier than using the online communication, social media, because there you need to wait for the results. If you have a good network, an active network, then I found it more effective. As Bianca said, that being organized is very important, because this is what stakeholders, partners appreciate a lot. Also, communication again. Your communication will engage your partners, so it's important. So I was amazed how important is it to be kind, to be detailed, to spend a lot of time on communication. And then sometimes you would consider me crazy spending 1 hour with writing an email, but that's important how you write it and how you present yourself, actually. Be flexible, and planning does not mean that we don't need to be flexible for the changes. And yeah, having small team is a huge risk, because if there are changes in a team, then it's hard to adopt, although we will make them and solve them for sure. But there are a lot of people around willing to help and join, so it's nice to use this advantage. And my biggest learning outcome is to believe in the project and believe that's going to be fine somehow.
Very good points from both, and especially now this part that you were also talking about, sticking to idea and believing on it. It seems, I feel from both of you, that you are both passionate about your project and your idea and the topic itself, and that for sure was also a key ingredient on the success of your project, this motivation and passion that drives you and keeps you going. Besides these learning outcomes that you see that there was a lot in each project, and it's amazing to reflect a little bit and see them. But what other things, what best things came out from your projects that you could easily replicate in another project or in continuing your own project? So for sure you already mentioned some, like for example, the partnerships, the communication, to be kind, but what other things you say that it doesn't matter what topic is the project about, but things that you know that for sure they will be useful in any project and any topic? And we can start again by Bianca.
Okay, thanks. One thing that I don't think I mentioned is that we gave our activities a flow and a connection between them. So that will be one thing that can be easily replicated in other projects. Connect your activities and invite the participants to take part in each of them. We had the European Parliament simulations in the summer for 2 months. We had 5 events. So at each event we built on the activities, but like the last part of the activity was during.
I'm not sure again if we lost Bianca, it's just from my side. No, I think, yeah, we lost again. Unfortunately, yeah, the internet connection sometimes causes some problems, but for sure we'll get back to Bianca. So meanwhile, Claudia, you can answer what Bianca was answering about what good things you can replicate in other projects.
I will be very simple. All the technical knowledge that I learned during, so editing website was something that I've never done, and even I thought that this is my weakness. once you are there and want to implement something immediately, you must just learn it, and then it's yours. So you can start a new project and work with a website, editing photos, writing effective content, network. I mean, that's not technical, but still for me it was hard to have this sales approach, to approach people, emphasize our strengths and the elevator pitch of the project. That was hard at the first time. Even I'm still practicing that. So all the knowledge that I learned, I think I can replicate somehow in the next project, but the technicals for sure. And somehow the experience, what is a good content and good communication, and what are those ones that are less interesting for people in general, and even for young people.
Thank you. And I think Bianca is back. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Sorry again.
No problem. I think it's better if you can answer from the beginning, because I'm not sure when also the internet was cut. But don't worry, it's part of these technical difficulties. So just reminding you the question, what were the good things, the best things from your project that you can replicate on others? And I think you mentioned first the flow and the connection between the activities.
Yeah, another thing would be to, this is more related to Claudia's topic, to be sustainable in your activities. During our activities, we try not to use so much plastic. Yeah, we had like glass cups. We didn't use as much paper as we normally would. We had whiteboards instead of paper to write on. We chose not to print our magazine and only do it online, so that we don't waste resources like paper. So that will be one easy thing to do for each of us, like try to be sustainable and use as less materials as possible. And another thing would be to, as I said before, to diversify the activities and methods used, so that you can respond to the learning needs of the participants. Don't stick to only one method, but choose to get to know your participants a bit ahead, like through energizers, different games, to see their level of knowledge, their level of interest in the topic you are addressing, and see how you can approach them so that they can pay attention and really engage in your activity.
Thank you so much, Bianca. Very good points, and welcome back. Good that the internet is working again. And it's interesting that now we find a common point on your both projects and this part of sustainability.
Can I add something, Sergio?
Yes, yes.
I really appreciate this, Bianca, because you and your project is a role model. So this is actually very important to be a role model, and you will simply just see what you do, and they will sooner or later copy what you do. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Maybe your project will be included on the website of Claudia one day, on the map, when you have a map of Romania also.
We can replicate that.
Yeah, it's amazing to find these common points. Still on the tips and tricks, I think it's somehow you already also answered a little bit on this, but also Claudia, about the time that you used to build a website. But what do you think? Why do you think it's important to invest time and energy to communicate about your projects? So this part of not only reaching other partners through the communication, but also involving young people to make them aware. In this case, also, for example, like Claudia was also mentioning that by Bianca saying this, she can be also a role model, and that is part also of the communication and promotion. So why do you think it's important to invest time on this part of the communication? And we can start with Claudia now to change a little bit.
I would say it's important to invest time in quality communication. That is a part of your brand. If you are visible, you will reach more people, and you will be able to show them your alternative, your perspective. But you can also reach people that are willing to join you and support you. So that's very important to invest time in it. And this comes with communication. If we talk about communication, internal communication is also very important. So communication among your team will support the effective work and project management. That is, I believe, the key to success. And your communication can be a part of your mission. How I mentioned before, that's one of our values, and one of the element of our mission is to prevent climate anxiety with using positive communication. So it's if we just emphasize them, then it's a part of our mission, and for sure we want to spend time on it. And well-planned communication in the online platforms will be shared, so it can spread your message. That's why, for example, we use humor. I think that I've seen somewhere that we had this Christmas post with reindeer and green deer. So a bit of humor can be something that is catchy, and of course this requires creative time. Once you have these jokes that are not bad jokes, and people will just share it. And although they shared the green deer, not actually the green map, but your site will spread somehow this way.
Very good point. And I think also it's in line with Bianca already said, also this communication inside the team. So the same question for you, Bianca. Why you need to spend time and energy in communicating well?
Well, I agree with all that Claudia said, like what she said about internal communication and creating your own image. But I will add that by communicating about your project, you also empower the project team, and you recognize and acknowledge their work and efforts in delivering different activities and offering different opportunities for the local community to get engaged and take part in your project. Also, through communication, through communicating your project, you give the opportunity for others to join your project. We had this experience in our project where young people were writing us to come to their high school. They wanted to become volunteers in our project in order to take part in the activities and see what we are doing. And one thing that I would add, besides what Claudia said, is that through communicating our project, we give visibility of the European Union's programs and opportunities. Our project was funded by the European Union through the European Solidarity Corps program. So it's important to recognize the efforts that the EU does in giving young people opportunities and benefits as citizens of the EU, to share their ideas and take initiative and contribute in their community through different projects.
Very good point. Thank you again for both for answering that part. One last part before we move to the Q&A. We are almost finishing this tips and tricks session, this part, but they are very useful and for sure they can inspire also a lot of people. So what are your practical tips of what not to do when communicating youth projects? Because we already mentioned now that it's important to spend time and energy. You already talked about good tips about how to communicate. So what not to do in order to communicate well with your projects? And we can start with Claudia.
Well, what not to do? I think do everything that you feel like, and then the worst case scenario that you will have a mistake, and then you will have something to improve in and then correct, and maybe to say I'm sorry for, but just don't be afraid of doing anything. But of course here I need to give advices. So do not communicate about something which is not related to your topic, at least. So does not mean that you need to communicate only about your project, but at least something that is related to the topic. So personally, I would say no for random selfies from the street, photos that are beautiful but not related. The other is a positive approach helps to touch sensitive topics as well. So for us, it was beneficial to stay neutral somehow. And the third is a bit hard, but I really want to share is that don't lie. And don't show a balloon that I've done this, and I'm perfect and so on. Don't lie, because the less is the more. And also we need as much content as it's possible, but real quality ones. And here I refer back to why is it important to invest time in it.
Very important tips. Thank you so much, Claudia, especially also the last one, because yeah, sometimes it happens that some projects show a lot of numbers and results when in practice it was not so much. So good to have also this transparency and not to lie. Thank you, Claudia. And the same question for Bianca. So what are the practical tips of what not to do?
For us, because we focused on elections and getting young people engaged in the community, it was really important not to give our project a political aspect or approach, because it could happen like during the project we talk about different political parties or different opinions, political opinions. So for us it was really important not to go into this subject and stay neutral and only present the I don't know, the European Parliament as the institution, as it's what it does, its role and activity, not to go on the political aspect. Another thing that I would add is don't be modest with your project results and impact. As Claudia said, don't lie about your project results, but also don't be afraid to share your activities, what you're doing, share fun facts from your project, I don't know, impressions from your participants, articles that others are publishing about your work, and also don't be afraid to thank your participants and partners for their involvement in the project. And one thing that I think it's really important, don't stay local. Try to reach other communities, share your project at national or even international level. There are so many platforms that promote youth initiatives, projects, and try to reach as many people as possible and give your project an international perspective.
Thank you so much for both very good tips and also things not to do. We still have a few minutes before going to the Q&A, so I really will gonna make now the last question regarding this debate and with tips and tricks. So because it seems that there was already a lot of good things and sharing, and we see that you are passionate and motivated, and you were able to reach partners, you were able to build a website in short time, a lot of positive things, even positive communication, as you are mentioning often. But we want to know also the difficulties. So tell us these 2 obstacles or challenges that you faced during your project, and how did you approach them, or how did you find a solution for them? And we can start with Claudia.
Well, yes, changes in the team. That was one of the biggest difficulty. Once you have a brand, new people need time to catch up and to be responsible for this brand as well. So changes can drive to less communication, to lower quality, or endless night work for those who left. So I think I mentioned before that we are focusing now to have a bigger team that is even more safe and requires more flexibility. Yes, and there was a point when I felt that green actors of Hungary are not really willing to cooperate, that I mentioned before, and I found this an interesting challenge, and I just kept going. So this is the part when I mentioned believe in your project. So just keep going, try more, and then you will have the lessons learned that it was not not willing to cooperate. Instead, it was just lack of information, lack of trust. So it's also very important to build trust within the team. And now we are planning to specialize our communication also to partners, because autumn will be the part when we are planning to reach partners more.
Thank you so much, Claudia. It's good also to know this hidden side sometimes of the project. And from your side, Bianca, what were the two main challenges or obstacles that you faced, and how did you approach them?
One obstacle, as I said before, was the political aspect of the project, that we had three partners that were a bit reserved in organizing activities in their high school, because it was about elections and they didn't want any political connection with their high school. So as an alternative, we chose to organize more activities in other cities, to also reach out as many young people as possible, but also the cities that we chose were close to the cities that we were initially supposed to have the activities. So the young people from the initial city could join us in the activities. Another challenge that we had was to engage and reach out to young participants who never were involved in any activity based on non-formal education. As I said, we adapt our activity to their learning needs and information that they wanted to acquire. So that was a challenge to adapt our activity on the spot. And like we had 20-30 minutes of energizers and games just to know how connected they were with the European Union and how much information they know, so that we can build our activity based on that. And also, as Claudia said, we had difficulties in our internal team, like coordinating ourselves, our schedules, but we managed to overcome that, like by online communication and trying to split the activities as we were available to organize them and participate in them.
Thank you so much, Bianca. Really nice to know everything, and also thank you, Claudia. So now it's the time for the Q&A, and of course we have some questions on the Q&A box, but we're also going to have some questions from people that are watching live on Facebook, that we are streaming live. So one question that came actually on the Q&A box that it will be important for you to answer is that in the framework of these projects, how did you involve people from most social and vulnerable groups to ensure that they had the opportunity to participate? So people also from less opportunities, let's say. And I think maybe more directed to Bianca, because she was involving more young people in this process. So tell us, if you can tell us specific practical things that, how did you were able to manage and involve these people?
Well, when we wrote the project, we thought about this aspect: how can we reach as many people from rural areas with fewer opportunities? And what we did, we chose high schools that were in cities close to rural areas. In 𝗏𝗁 County, there are some cities that are surrounded by rural areas. So we know that young people from those communities go to high school, to the high school closest to their home. So what we did, we chose that high schools, we contacted them. They were glad to have activities for their students. So in this way, we were able to reach young people from rural areas easily. Like try to find a place where they all can join you, and not to be a difficult thing for them to do, to come to your activity. And also in reaching out to young people with fewer opportunities, we used our social platforms and adapt our messages to fit each target group.
Okay, thank you so much. If I understood correctly, you went to the places where the young people were instead of asking them to come and making it difficult for them to participate. And also, as you mentioned already several times, also to adapt and to learn with that adaptation. That's very practical tools, and thank you so much for that, Bianca. Now we also have a question for Claudia that comes also from the Q&A box, which is, Claudia, how did you reach your target audience? How did you drive traffic to your website? And you already said in the beginning that you need to be patient and waiting. In the beginning, there's not much. So how it was the process? How did you achieve that?
First of all, the first step, the easiest step is just talk about it. And then once you have social media, then invite your friends because they are for sure willing to support you. Some of them will be interested and then share the idea. And then it comes with the communication, what kind of content you create. For sure, you need to know your target audience. And how I did it, I am part of a lot of Facebook groups that are about zero waste topics, that are about environment protection. And I spend enormous time there just to see what do these people need and what are those topics and actions that they react. And once I know that what is trigger for them, then I will produce that kind of content on the social media as well. Also, this radio podcast and the festival radio is a big advantage because there we can reach people that are not really focused on environment protection. So this is kind of not that high level topic. We invite experts, we talk about it, but on a base level, so then make sure that everybody can understand and somehow get in touch with the topic. I also started to share my article on green sites. I am applying for competitions because this is how you can get to this webinar, for example, and now a lot of people listening that I'm really glad for. So actually, this is it. For us, it's quite big, the target audience. So we wanted to reach people that are interested in environment protection, but secondly, also reach people that are not interested, but at least have open ears. So we can deliver the message and emphasize the topic, and also network again. For example, I just got in touch with an ex-colleague, and he has a very good initiative of collaboration. So I just got in touch with him. Let's talk about it, what we can do, and it came out that that I can be, for example, a mentor of green and sustainable topics, so I can reach more people during my Make Inspiration, for example.
Very good tips, and I'm sure that you are still learning also even more, and as the project evolves and the idea evolves, for sure you're going to find also other ways of reaching even more people for your traffic, for your website, and having traffic.
And also we need to learn a lot. So in the world of internet, you just search how to reach my target audience. Like that's what, for example, Brian Tracy says, that if you have never searched for something, that you are not really interested in that. So yeah, there are lots of materials on the internet, and you can easily learn all of them, how to reach your target audience.
That's a very good tip that I think it can work for everything. And you mentioned also, you also learn how to build a website because you also didn't have the knowledge. So you also learn by searching how to create or reach your target audience. Thank you so much for that, Claudia. Another question that will be a bit for both, and I think it's also a very important question that comes from the Q&A box. It's how will you monitor the results of the project? How will you measure the outcomes? And we can start with Bianca.
Well, first of all, we kept track of everything, of the articles we wrote about the project, number of participants. We had an attendance list for each activity. So if you are organized and as I said, keep track of everything. You can easily see your results. I mean, like the numbers of your project, like how many participants took part in your activities, how many articles were wrote about your project, page likes, and so on. Another method to measure your project's results is through your participants. See their reaction, feedback, and if they take action after your activity. We had young people who contact us after the activity that they wanted to organize more activities, they wanted to get involved. So I think that's also a result of your project, getting young people enthusiastic about your project and wanting to create more opportunities for the young people from their local communities.
Thank you so much, Bianca. I don't know if we have Claudia here or if you lost it with this internet connection, but Claudia, if you are here, can you also answer the same? How do you monitor the results of your project?
I'm here. I was just looking for, because I just provided the text answer. So our project, since it's pretty much online, our project is pretty much measurable as well. So results, let's say you have the social media followers, you have the individual users and visitors of the website. You can also reach the number of audience during the podcast, and that is a very important KPI for us, to have this community active, or to motivate them somehow to be active and recommend us their favorite green members or solutions. So it's easy to measure how much of the database comes from recommendation. Our target number was, I think, 20-25%, but we are over that. So around 30% of the database comes from recommendation. Even 3 minutes ago, I received one. So I think for me it's easy to measure, and for me it's very important not to stick to the numbers all the time, but be a bit more qualitative and go around, ask people. It's also very important how many people will ask during the radio podcast. So if they are listening live and if they are raising questions live.
So a lot of different factors that can contribute to monitor. But as you said also now very well, not only quantitative, but also qualitative. And I think you both of you focused a little bit on that. Thank you so much for that answer. And Q&A box is not the only place where we are receiving the questions, but also from people watching on Facebook on live stream. So now I would make you a question coming exactly from Facebook. That is, how did these projects get their funding? You already talked, both of you, I think, about the Solidarity Corps, that you applied for that. But this was the only funding opportunity that you had on your projects? And if not, which were the other ones? And what was the key in these proposals? And we can start with Bianca.
Yeah, our project was fully funded and only funded by the European Solidarity Corps program. That was until December last year, so until our activities were held. But now if we want to continue, we'll do it with our own funds, but because it's online, we won't need any funds as we needed last year. And when we applied to the European Solidarity Corps program, the key aspect that we focused on was how do we respond to young people's needs, especially in the elections, and how can our project be beneficiary for
I think we lost Bianca again. I'm not sure, but it seems like, at least from my side, I see everything frozen. Okay, let's hope that she will get back again. There's always these technical difficulties. But meanwhile, Claudia, then you can answer. How did you find the funding for your projects?
I opened my bag. Yeah, so actually we don't have any funding at this point. We applied for Solidarity Project and we'll see what the result's gonna be. Actually, the money that we used, we invested like with Steve, whom I started with this project. This one, approximately 150 euros is not that much in half year. So for me, it worth it. So it's about the planet. It's worth it. And for sure that all the projects at the beginning, it requires investment, time and money as well. That will hopefully return in a while. And also, of course, this is very interesting, the business model, but when once this project builds on the power of media, of course, we can sooner or later use the power of media. So advertisements, for example, we are planning to define premium profiles, but for sure, we would like to stick that being on the map and being visible on this website will be free forever. But there will be other marketing moves that they can pay for. Yes, so we don't have funding at this point.
But you were still able to do the project anyway and implement your ideas. So that's also a very good inspiration. I'm not sure if Bianca is back. Meanwhile, if you are back, can you just say something, Bianca? If not, then I will make another question. Yeah, I think Bianca is not back. So then I'll make another question, and one directed actually to you, Claudia. You've talked about relationships with business and others. Indeed, what is the relationship of your project with public authorities? Did the Hungarian government add green political issues?
We don't really have relation. Like, this is a civic project, and we are not the, I would say, the critical size and the critical mass that we must get in touch. Of course, that can boost our project and that would be beneficial. But at this point, we are really focusing on the individuals and maybe companies that want to be greener or implement more eco solutions. And at this point, we are not really in touch with public authorities. However, the European Week of Waste Reduction, the organizer had been one of the authorities, and we invited them to the radio podcast, so they were open. We're ready to involve them into this project. I would say it's just not the focus at this point.
It was not your priority, if I understood correctly,
yeah.
at the moment, but it's
not
good
yet.
to know. And not yet. Good to know, and probably there's going to be also more involvement, we hope. I think Bianca is back now, and Bianca, yeah, I'm sorry for all these troubles and you're struggling, but it's part of this process. No worries, we are all aware of this kind of conditions. Anyway, going back a little bit to the question about funding from your project, I think you didn't complete your answer, so feel free to resume.
Yeah, so as I said, our project was funded by the European Solidarity Corps program. We applied it in October 2018, so it was like almost 4 months before we actually started the project. And when we applied, we tried to think about if our community really needs the young people from our community really needs the project, if we can respond to their needs, learning needs. So when we applied to the project, that were our main focus on. The program funded our project fully, but now the project ended officially in December, so all our resources are given by us if we need something.
Good, thank you. And thank you that you try to solve it. If I understood correctly, now you are on a mobile phone, so you find a solution. I think it's also interesting to see how we talked also about obstacles in projects and how you approached. And it's clear also that you were using also this experience in solving problems and finding a solution now. One other question for both of you is that, are there any noticeable changes in the people who implemented this project? Not only you, but also the people that were with you. And if yes, which ones? So did you notice any changes on the people? So on yourselves and on the people that you work while implementing these projects? And what were those changes? And we can start with Claudia.
Yes, definitely. Let's talk about, I really would like to talk about myself than evaluating someone else. But I would say that there is something, you know, when you start to practice something, and in this case is positive mindset and positive attitude, because this is what we pinned to our board that we want to keep and when we want to emphasize, and we had to stick to it, and I really feel that I got used to it, and easier for me, this positive mindset. I also became more brave to approach random foreign people, businesses with this idea, and start with, look, this is a fresh new project, but I have something to say, and this is very interesting. So for me, it's a big personal development. Yeah, as a first sight, this one.
And you said that you don't want to mention well other people, but maybe you also observe something from others. Of course, you cannot talk by them, but did you notice some changes on the other people that you were involved with?
Or it's a change, or it was constant, but I'm all the time amazed how much supportive people can be. So voluntarily, they do a huge effort. Even it requires a lot of time during the night, whatever it needs. They come, they help, they work on it. So for me, it's all the time amazing that I'm not this only crazy one.
Nice to know. Thank you so much, Claudia. So the same question for Bianca. Did change something on you and on the people that were working with you on this project?
Well, as Claudia said, I don't like to evaluate others, but one thing that I can say for sure is that all of us got more connected to the European Union because we had to do our research about what it does, the elections, and so on. So I think that that's one change that I saw in all of us. Like, we got more connected and active in promoting the EU values, institutions, and what is going on with us as citizens in the European Union.
And with you personally, besides this EU approach, did you notice something else on yourself? Like Claudia was saying that, for example, more brave, or this positive mindset.
Yeah, I can say that as well, that I became more brave, especially in speaking in front of a lot of people. We had activities with 200 young people, so it was a challenge, and it was first time for me, like, to speak to so many people and share my message with them. Also, I can say that I became more organized, like to keep track of everything going on with the project, keep track of the results of our, I don't know, Facebook page, coordinate our messages and schedules, especially between our members of the project. So that will be on my side. And
So
also I developed digital skills, I can say. With the magazine and website, we had to choose what we want, how we want to create our design. And yeah, I can say that also, like, digital skills.
Very nice. It's very inspirational also to see that, yeah, the projects, sometimes we see the outcomes and we see the results from outside, but it was very also interesting to know now that also inside you change a little bit and some things, develop some competences or change at least some mindset. Thank you so much for both for being here. And we are almost finishing, but I would ask you if there's something else that we didn't mention, we didn't question, that you would like to say now as the final words, final comments, or some another advice to the people that are watching. And I can start with Claudia.
Well, I already shared a lot. It was an interesting question here in the Q&A about networking approaches and practices. There are a lot of books about it. You can also search on the internet for it, but I have to say that this is not a rocket science. So you have to be brave. You need to plan whom you would like to get in touch with, and then just ask around or get in touch with them directly, and just share what you need to share, and what is also very important, to offer something that can be beneficial for these people, and you don't need to pay. For example, if you offer to mention them on the website, that is completely free for you, and we have also this sub page, thank you, for our partners. That's also beneficial, and it's also beneficial for the planet, for sure. That is beneficial for them as well. So it's not a rocket science again. Just be brave, and start it and offer something.
Thank you so much, Claudia. And to Bianca, any last comments or advices or some recommendations?
It will be the same, like, don't be afraid to take initiative. And if you see a problem or a need in your community, don't be afraid to be the person that has the initiative to change that. There are so many programs and programs of the European Union that can fund you if you need funds, but also you don't need a lot of funds to really take your idea into action.
Thank you so much for both, and don't go away right away because we still have some few minutes, but we're going to try to summarize everything that happened and to reassure the people that are watching all these Q&As, the questions that we're not answering. We're going to try and ask Claudia and Bianca if they can answer later by written format, and we can share also with everybody on the SALTO participation information platforms. And so to try to summarize everything that happened, I don't know, I feel very inspired. It was really inspirational, this conversation, and to get to know a little bit more Claudia and Bianca and your projects and your ideas. But there was a lot of good things, even that there are two projects different, one about democracy and EU elections and this EU citizenship, while the other is more related with sustainability and environment. But there was a lot of good things here that actually they were quite common, like, for example, the good partnerships, the good communication, the learning out points that you also take out from these projects, that you were constantly learning and trying to adapt. And as both of you mentioned also now in the end about even these developing competences, as Claudia said, that she also needed to learn how to make a website. Bianca also said now that she also developed these digital competences for the magazine and others. And definitely, the partnerships and the network, it was also one of the key elements from both of your projects. This bravery, this motivation and passion, how you both were also very motivated for your own topic, and you found people that were also motivated by that and could support you. And be patient. Sometimes also things take time, but they can happen if you insist. And also, as we saw, even that there was some funding for the project of Bianca, Claudia didn't have so much, but still things are possible to do if you have the right motivation and inspiration and you are willing to do. And I think this award from SALTO PI, it's also a recognition of that work that you were able to do it for and with young people. And thank you so much again for your amazing inspiration and for all these comments and tips and don'ts And I'm sure that later also when we're going to share also this graphic recording from 𝘁𝗍, it will also refresh the memory of people that attended, but also for sure for people that were not able to attend, that going to see and going to take out at least these main highlights and main out points that both of you shared. So once again, thank you so much. And I will pass now the word to 𝘁𝗶𝗶𝘀, so she can also explain a little bit what are the next webinars that SALTO PI and I will have scheduled now.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to show a slide as well to support that. Visuals help. It's another tip of communication. Make it visual. We have had now 4 webinars in the series of webinars called Making Youth Participation Visible. And supporting this topic and ending this series on the 4th of June, we have another amazing webinar coming up. And that webinar is focusing on examples from Estonia, from Estonian Youth Council, and lowering the voting age and making youth more participating in the decision-making process. And then we have another inspirational speaker, Deborah from Ireland, and she has been really advocating sex education in Ireland. She's been also activist in regarding Brexit topics and young people and elections, European elections. And last year she was elected as the president of Irish Youth Work, which is the organization to impact the youth work in Ireland. So at just 18 years old, she's an inspiration, and so are the guys from Estonian National Youth Council. So please sign up in the SALTO website. We'll post a link on the comments on the Facebook and send you the link also in your email, those who are on Zoom. And that will be the last webinar before the summer, so be sure not to miss it out. And all the materials, as I mentioned, will be presented in the resource pool. We'll be launching the resource pool officially in mid-June, but for our own participants and our own community, we can already let you know that the previous webinars are up there, and there is a lot of great material already available for you regarding youth participation, media and information literacy, and critical thinking. So check it out, share with your friends, and give us the feedback if you have anything. We've been really honored to have you with us, and please do follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And we have also SALTO newsletter, which we send monthly news about our most important trainings and opportunities and publications. So if you're interested, just go to the SALTO youth website and sign up for the newsletter as well, so you can stay in touch with us and help to inspire Europe to make participation bigger and more visible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, 𝘁𝗶𝗶𝘀. And I would ask now, just before we finish, Kadri, if you can launch also a poll just to understand and have a little bit feedback about how it was this webinar for the people that were attending. And while the poll is being launched, I would like to thank all the team from SALTO PI. Thank you, 𝘁𝗶𝗶𝘀. Thank you, Kadri. Thank you, Georgi. Thank you, Kelly. Amazing work. People that are attending sometimes don't see, but there's a lot of work on the background. Amazing what you did with the Q&A, with the chat. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you, 𝘁𝗍, for your amazing graphic recording and to make everything more visual. It was really awesome. And thank you, Claudia and Bianca, for accepting this challenge. Congratulations once again for your projects and your award. And I hope that everybody that is attending will join us on 4th of June on the next webinar. Thank you so much, everybody. See you soon.